We all have mood swings. His just were much more pronounced. And his moods might depend on the music he made that day or didn't make. It might depend on how the show went last night. It might depend on how he felt when he woke up that morning. It might depend on something that none of us would ever know that was just purely personal. He was hysterically funny. He could be generous, supportive, and sensitive. He could also be hard-edged and rude.
He's great. Look at the stars on our stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Herb Alpert and Diana Ross.
The nominees are...
Baz, Michael Jackson.
Sign of the Times, Prince.
Joshua Tree, U2. Whitney Houston.
And the album of the year is... The Joshua Tree, U2.
He's so prolific. His sheer output of work is mind-boggling. In the last 12 months, he's recorded 2 albums, released 2, did a European tour, did a movie, produced tracks for half a dozen artists, writing a script simultaneously and constantly, always recording, and now in the midst of yet another world tour.
The Lovesexy tour looked like Liberace on acid.
Jamie. Hydraulics, just different lighting around stage, which he had never done. It was just so deep. It was just different.
We would sit down and talk about how many days do we want to play in certain cities. Okay, Baltimore's worth 2 nights, Philly's worth 3 nights, Detroit's worth 6 nights. Everybody's in hotels, the trucks and buses, every night off, the meter's still running. So we used to beg him to try to cut costs. Every time we'd go to say we can't afford it, he said, but I pay you guys to find the money.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cat.
It was at my birthday party. Now, mind you, I'm a newbie in the band. I didn't know about Paparazzi. Me and Miko and Terrence Trent D'Arby. The next day, I get summoned to Prince's room, and Prince got mad at me. Look at that. He threw the newspaper, and it was me and Miko and Terrence Trent D'Arby. You know you can't be doing that because people think you're my girlfriend. Oops, my bad. You should have told me about Paparazzi.
It was hard to determine what the real Prince was. And every time I thought I had it nailed, he would say or do something that would send me back to rethink it.
So I knew every line, every drum beat, every emotion. I was so into it, like spiritually. Prince said, wow, I'm not going to call you on the stage till the last minute. I got pissed. Held me a cab, went back to my hotel room. They were at the end of the song on stage singing, Cat, we need you to rap. Cat, where you at? Cat Glover was back at the hotel. They broke in my room. Prince is worried about you. But at that particular moment, I was not having it.
He paid his musicians very well, way better than anybody else. It was understood that if he wanted to record or do an after show or rehearse for 10 hours, you were there, no questions asked.
You perform 2.5 hours on stage. After you get off, you jump in your tour bus or limousine, go to the hotel room, shower, whatever, and have to be at a club till 4 or 5 in the morning.
We had an after show summer in Europe. It was just one of those grueling days, and we had just traveled the night before. It had been a long day with a long sound check. The crew was worn out. The band was worn out. Nobody was feeling it, but he was insistent that we're going to do this club show. No, he was a trooper with a hurt knee, it was cold, and nothing stopped it. Everybody sucked it up except Eric. He said, I'm not going. I'm just not going. Tell him I'm sick, whatever you want to tell him. Now I'm caught in the middle of this. And he's like, I don't care. That's too bad. So we get to the gate. Where's Eric? He wasn't feeling well. He stayed back at the hotel. Call him and tell him I said, come over. And I said, he ain't coming. Oh, okay. We did the show. Matt Bliston, who was the trumpet player, got all the solos at the after show. Eric showed up at sound check the next day. So, you feeling better? I gave everybody a big bonus last night. Most after shows, nobody got anything extra. He knew Eric wouldn't take the insults. Certain people in the band, he could say or do whatever he wanted, and they'd still be there tomorrow, ready to go. There were other people who weren't going to take that.
I mean, there was the Miko thing, about him and Miko getting to the confrontation.
Doing the last run through before they had to break the equipment down and send it over to Europe. Okay, so we get ready to start. you know, to play, the guitar became incredibly loud, too loud. And so that Prince got really upset, and on the microphone, he started kind of like screaming at me and shit. You know, I said, oh, no, I'm not having that. So I walked over to him, and I said, hey, look, man, if you want to talk to me, we can go to your office. And then he kind of looked at me and said, you about due for an ass whooping. I looked around if his bodyguards was there.
At Paisley, if we were there, we were doing something else.
I didn't see them. I said, you mean you? So I laid the guitar on the floor. When we got towards the door, okay, come on, man, come outside. It's a field over here. I'm getting ready to cut it all down with your ass. He looked at me, he opened the door, and he said, get out of my building. I went home and I took a shower and I went to the discotheque. You know, I was in the discotheque dancing on the floor, and when his security dudes came,
he sent me and Gilbert over to go talk to Miko and saying that he wanted to talk to him.
And so I went up to where he was sitting down somewhere. So I went over there and sat by him. So I said, hey, man, what are you screaming at me in front of all these people and all of that? You can't be handling me like that. And then he said, yeah, man, I know. I'm sorry, man. I've been under pressure with this film and the tour and all of that. I was just under a little bit too much pressure. And I said, well, now you have to pay. So you got to double my per diem and double my salary for this tour. And he was like, what? He said, man, a real musician wouldn't be wanting that money. And I go, oh, I'm so glad I'm not a real musician. You better pay me, fool. And then that was it. No big deal. And then I went on the tour and did the thing.
I didn't know about the Miko thing until we were at the club.
Lovesexy tour. There was after shows every night. I was tired. And then I got pissed off about something in New York. It kind of hurt my feelings because I really looked up to her. But I could see where this was going. On that song, Erotic City, when she passes me, whispers some bullshit in my ear, she said to me, don't be touching my man. I went backstage, I tore up the dressing room. See, she went and told Prince what I did. Prince summons me to his hotel room. And I said, oh, I might as well go. I see you guys talked already. I got up to leave and slammed the door. Prince told me to come back in. I came back. He says to Sheila, did you say that? And she said, no, I didn't say that. I said, okay, I'm out of here. He said, Sheila, I'm not your man. I never was, and I never will be. And I went, boom, got up and walked out.
All of this other stuff, it gets to be too much. And I'm like, I'm not enjoying myself.
I wasn't treated very well by her. I think that's why I danced so hard, because I was angry.
Lovesexy had not been as successful as he had wanted it to be. It was kind of a weird record that people didn't understand. Great tour, but the album wasn't what he thought it should have been.
When I was 17, I moved to Minneapolis. I spent my birthday in England at home. I flew to Minneapolis the same day. So it was still the 31st because of the time difference. So I spent basically the morning of my birthday at home, the day on the plane, and the evening in Minneapolis. And we worked together on songs.
But the original movie was about me, Madonna, and Prince. The whole script took another turn. When
he first got that script, there was going to be a part for me. We were kind of laying in bed and he was reading it to me.
Well, we on tour, Lovesexy tour. Prince was writing that script, all that music. I was kind of looking forward to Graffiti Bridge.
You spend a whole year damn near on the road with a tour that you're unhappy with an album that you're unhappy with, and the relationship with the managers has become fractured. That's when he fired his managers, Cavallo, Ruffalo, and Farnoli. It was on New Year's Eve. Announced New Year's Day. He had appointed Al Magnoli as his new manager, and Magnoli was the film director. Thought it was insane. This is not a good situation. It can't have a good outcome. I'm on record. I warned you. This is typical Prince. Don't bring any negative energy in here. Now stay in the now and be positive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the prefix of manager is man, and I've always thought that I was a pretty strong man, so I don't need any help in that area. I was paying somebody who wasn't in the recording process or creative process to begin with.
It was really a case of Prince thinking, Stephen Farnoli and Bob Cavallo, they don't make music. Nobody buys tickets to see them. All you had to do was say, I represent Prince. Cavallo, Ruffalo, and Farnoli know people at film companies. They have the network necessary to prioritize your artist to make shit happen. It's all about relationships. I mean, it wasn't like Mo Austin wasn't going to see Prince's new manager. He had to. Was he going to respect him?
You remember Robert Cavallo?
Who was now replaced by Albert Magnoli. Bob Cavallo The managers he just fired, they brought us the project. Bob called me, the film company who was interested in Prince doing music for Batman. He said, look, this is a real opportunity for Prince and he needs it. He's kind of ice cold now. Lovesexy didn't really work. The Black Album got canceled. We don't know what's going to happen next. I'm not going to call him because, we're going to end up suing him and it's going to be ugly. Why don't you take this project to him called Prince? And I said, look, there's an opportunity. The director wants you involved. Can we set up a meeting? And he was like, holy shit, yeah, great idea. Let's do it. It was one of those movies that everybody was waiting for. For the first time in Prince's career, he was no longer at the cutting edge. And everybody knew Batman was going to be a huge project.
We were supposed to be working on Graffiti Bridge. We had a break. Prince was offered to do the music for the Batman movie. And he was working on that. He put me and Sheila E. on a retainer. Being on a retainer, I was doing other work, until he finished the Batman movie.
Sheila E. told Prince about us. I guess she was scouting.
Romeo Blue.
That's the Romeo Blue phase. Oh, the thing on Soul Train? So I did that show. That was just for Soul Train. I was making my demos at A&M.
A lot of the gear that it takes to make the record sound like what we want it to sound like, it's very hard to find. I'm really looking for a certain sound, real whole, pure sound.
Tony and I went to junior high school together. His name was Tony Fortier. Tony was the partner I'd been looking for. I hadn't seen him in a few years. He'd grown his hair out and looked like a rock star. We started making music together, and he was kind of on this thing. It was funky. Tony was raw. If I played you these demos, they were nasty, nasty funk. It was like where I went with Let Love Rule, but it was more on the funk side. And I was playing a lot of his instruments on demos. We were working on material that featured him. There was always an undercurrent of competition coming from Tony. Then came Sonia. Sonia was irresistible. She met Tony. Tony and Sonia hopped on his bike to grab food. They didn't return that night. I didn't think in a million years that Tony would steal my girl, but he did. I was heartbroken. Tony and I stuck together. I hung in with him.
This is going to be large. This is going to be here for a while. It's going to work. And this is a train I want to get aboard because this ride is going to be fantastic and it's going to be a long one.
I took over the label in February of '89. I don't want to be the tour manager anymore. If you really want to do something with this label, let me run the label. Let me split my time between Paisley Park Records and Warner Brothers. Let's actually try to make a go of the label. That's what I want to do. And he was like, okay, cool. I appreciate that.
We did a showcase somewhere in the Valley. I played bass. Tony sang lead. We did the showcase. I guess Prince sent Sheila. Prince signed Tony, who wanted me to be part of the deal. Remember Tony telling me that Prince said that they didn't sound like records to him. He wanted them to be more polished. They ended up signing. I went my own way to go do my stuff. I turned it down.
Is that how you met Ingrid Chavez? Because they were dating They were dating at one point, weren't they? That Tony and Prince had a falling out because over her.
Yeah. I don't want to speak for her, but yeah.
So there was like about a year and a half time between us recording the original tracks for the poetry album and finishing the album.
Tony and I became really close. We were boyfriend and girlfriend, being there. We would all hang out and we would go to the studio late at night and do background vocals on his record. But it wasn't like Prince was involved with my life at the time. That was just an interesting period in time.
Tony Lamonska, that may have been the first project we had when I took the label over. Good question. Either Farnoli or Cavallo brought them to the label. Good question came out earlier. Inevitably, it was up to Prince what records we submitted for release. Now, Warner's could say no, but they didn't. Any finished album that we gave them, they released.
At one point, for me, the music started changing, and I just didn't like what he was doing. It was like, I got to take a break. I want to do something else. So, I like playing with other artists as well. I wanted to play with other artists, and especially, you have a bucket list and you dream. I want to play with so-and-so, and one day I get to meet this person, that person. And that's all I wanted to do, and that's what I did. I wanted to play with other people.
And Prince said, I heard that Stephen Magnoli is still your manager. And I go, yeah. And then he goes, well, that shit ain't going to work, don't you? And I said, no, I didn't. He said, well, fire him or we're not going to work together anymore. And he hung up the phone on me. I remember a week later, he called me, so did you fire him? And I said, no, I didn't. And he said, well, we can't work together anymore. I said, oh, well, I guess we can't. I hung up the phone, and that's how me and Prince's relationship ended. He wanted me to fire Stephen Magnoli because he fired him. Madonna dropped out. Then the thing with me and Stephen, everything turned into chaos.
I had then just recorded the song Fantasia Erotica. There was a part in the script where there's a girl group who were also going to be valet parking the cars, like from the club. So they were going to be valet parking, which was going to be me and two girls that I brought for Fantasia Erotica. Fantasia Erotica, Prince and I sat at Paisley Park. We were writing, you know, the lyrics to the song. But Fantasia Erotica, we specifically did for me. And he was like, wow, you should put a girl group together. So I picked two friends from Europe. I went over there. We filmed this thing.
Do you have a copy of Fantasia Erotica? Yes. Get a video camera and you two do a routine to it. Does that sound like a good plan? Yeah. Okay, I'll do it. Hurry up. I have to do it like tomorrow? You gotta be somewhere important? Well, no. I'll be waiting. Okay. Alright. Bye.
So basically like auditioned for them, sent it back, and he was like, okay. And he was like, all right, that's fine.
What do you think it? Isn't it funny? I think it's really sweet. I was cracking up, I love it. Really? Yeah, I put a call in for Warner Brothers in Holland. What? I put a call in for Warner Brothers in Holland and I told them that I wanted to sign that. Really? So they'll release it, but you gotta just rehearse and I gotta make the video. So rehearse on it and I'll set up how you can get over there and work with you, alright? Yeah. You gotta get serious about it though, right? Mm-hmm. You gotta do it every day, 5 to 6 hours, so it's really tight. And keep doing it until I call you. It'll be in about 3 or 4 days. Alright? Okay. I love you. I love you too. Bye.
Then there was going to be a part where we go into the club and we sing. And there were a lot of other changes, which I heard from Jill Jones. She's actually in it.
When Kim Basinger was involved, it was something else.
Yeah.
And she apparently had written this story of the angels.